that I'm blessed. It's a few L's and millions, so turn that loss to a...
Dave, welcome to the show. You know, I've been watching you for years. I had an opportunity to see you live at the CCM sales rally a few years back in Vegas. And I've always just been super impressed with really your approach, because here's somebody that is very well known in the mortgage space. I have seen you interviewing the best of the best, some of the top loan officers in the country. And I always learn something new. There's always a different perspective. It makes me think. It's a tactic that I can take away in my business. And I want to just applaud you for that approach. But I also thought, man, I don't know that I've seen too many interviews where it's Dave Savage exposed, and it's sort of
exposed
behind the business.
Bring it. Yeah, no, that's cool. And who is the audience primarily? Like who?
Yeah, so primarily we're speaking to entrepreneurs, by default, individuals that are in the mortgage space. I've been in lending for about 20 years now. So I think that a lot is changing. And so I just thought it'd be interesting to have your perspective on it, and kind of get some input on, like, where did all this start for you before you went into, because really you're in a tech space that it's kind of white collar meets blue collar, right? And so how did you develop the idea for Mortgage Coach, and how did this all start for you?
Cool. Yeah. I mean, you want me to do that when you're interviewing me, right?
Yeah. Right now.
No problem. Oh, is it being recorded?
Yep.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Sorry, man. So
Yeah.
I thought we were prepping.
Hey, by the way, that's the idea. It's to be raw and real and uncut, and making sure that we're getting the real you.
Okay, cool. So you want me to just start rolling?
Yeah, just start rolling, man. How did you get to this? How did you come up with the idea for Mortgage Coach?
Yeah, so I was a loan officer for a long time. I started in the 80s, I think 86 or 87. Became a pretty successful mortgage originator. I think it was probably 91 where I really started using the tagline, "My advice makes a difference." And I had, while I was not good in English, I'm ADD, I'm dyslexic, had a very difficult time with spelling, English, reading. I was always ahead of my grade level with math. So I won with math. And so I had started developing with a lot of concepts that became Mortgage Coach. And I'm very competitive, played sports, competed everything, and wanted to be the best loan officer in my company. And then I wanted to be the best loan officer in my city. And then I wanted to be the best loan officer in my county. And then I wanted to be the best loan officer in the state. And I think when I founded Mortgage Coach, I was like, I had checked all those boxes, and I was trying to become one of the top loan officers in the country. And at one point I was I think I was number 20, number 30, in the country. But it was that competitive edge, that journey. But I had developed, like, my sales process was my advice makes a difference. And then how I would show that to a consumer is, here's options, look at the cost over time. Here's a strategy to pay off your mortgage faster. A lot of the best, the Barry Habibs, the Jim McMahons, we were all doing this, but we were doing it with Excel spreadsheets and so when I founded Mortgage Coach, I had started to build a company. I had a branch. I don't know how many loan officers I had at the time, but probably somewhere between 20 and on my way to 100 loan officers. And
how long had you been in the industry at that point?
Well, if I started in 86 and I founded Mortgage Coach in 96.
Okay. So
10 years,
Yeah.
So, so I was like solving so that, and literally my co-founder, Greg Wexler, who became my partner, he, business partner, he was a nerd. He coded stuff. And I was trying to, like, hey, I want you to make this so easy that I could hire waiters, waitresses, people that weren't elite mortgage professionals, even maybe new to the business, and they could do my process and they could be successful. So I was trying to, become one of the top. Now I scale that. And the first version of Mortgage Coach, I think I paid him 20 grand. And I was like, all right, bro, like that is better for me, like that saves me time, but like nobody else is going to be able to do this thing. And I was trying to like scale, like this is my unique competitive differentiator for my mortgage company. And the year before that, Todd Duncan had asked me to speak at Sales Mastery, tell my story, like, hey, how do you do all this? And by the way, that was another unique twist to my strategy is I got all my business from CPAs and financial planners and past customers. I mean, I had a couple of realtors, but I mean, that was like unheard of back then. Like all the ballers that were, in the top 100 was all builder business, all realtor business.
Sure.
I mean, maybe there was someone else, but I don't know who it was that was in the top 100, with an alternative source of business. So Todd asked me to come speak at his event, and I guess I did good because he said, "Hey, can you come back next year?" And so I'm working the mortgage coach deal. Greg tells me, "Well, to do what you want, that's gonna be like $100,000." And I mean, I was making a lot of money, so I could have like, okay, I'll pay you $100,000. But I instead said, "Hey, you know what? This is gonna be a big deal. I want this. I know all the best people are gonna want this. I promise you'll get your $100,000, but let's just do a business deal, partnership." And I'm going to speak at Sales Mastery again next year. I think it was about 6 to 7 months out, and I'll tell my story from stage, and I don't know how many will sell, but within a year, you'll get your $100,000, bro. And so handshake deal. He was the coder, with the promise that he's going to make $100,000 at some point within this project. And then I spoke at Sales Mastery. I don't know if it was 96 or 97, but whatever. Sales Mastery 96, 97. Told my story. We sold it for $995 a piece. I walked off stage. Our wives were working the booth, and we sold 117 mortgage coaches. And boom, we were in business.
Amazing. And he got paid back. So I want to stay on this for a second because I believe there are a lot of people that are in the mortgage space. It might be entrants. When I say entrants, maybe somebody that's been in the business for a year or two. Then you've got your top guys that have built more than a career, but a very high profitable business. A lot of the guys that you interview, a lot of the females that you interview as well. There are also, just from conversations I've had, a lot of people that are just sort of, their eyes are wandering, right? I think in our industry, we're often taught, keep your eye on the prize, focus, put your head down, go to work. It is also an industry where you're only as good as your last month.
Yeah.
And so I know that this is something that's a little controversial, and there's two sides to it, but some people would say, hey, like this is a moment in time with where the market's at. Just continue to do the revenue generating activity and you will surpass this period of time and come out on the other side of it. And then there are individuals that feel like, wow, I've been doing this for a while. I've been successful with it, but I feel like maybe I was meant to do more. And I feel like with you, you were in the business for 10 years. You had built a successful mortgage business. Was it difficult for you at that time? Like, because all of a sudden your attention is a little distracted now on building this technology. And so was it difficult for you to do that? And did you question sometimes, man, am I diluting my focus? And how do I know for sure that this is really the right path when I've got something successful already going on? Like, walk us through where your head was at that time and what.
Well, first of all, that transition to full-time mortgage top producer, company builder, to tech, and every story is unique, and there was a lot of nuance to that. If I had that transition to do over, I wouldn't have been so abrupt. Like I left a lot of money on the table by not, like if I had to do over, I would have built up my team because I had learned how to build team. I had learned how to build culture, company, process, and I would have either transitioned slower, but like left that revenue source in place while I started two tech companies, by the way. I had another company that I sold in 2000. I don't know. I don't know when I sold it, 2010 or something like that, called Smart Reply. But I had fallen in love with building products and technology. And then that's another, like, I got in the mortgage business. I mean, my dream was to become an inventor. So I was always very attracted to innovative things. And I could tell you stories of, my first attempted entrepreneur inventions. I got into the mortgage business because I stumbled into it, and you're making a lot of money, and by the way, what a gift! Like, I'm so lucky I found this business. It afforded me an incredible career, to make a lot of money, to set very high expectations on what I can do as a businessman. And then it helped me find mortgage coach, and it helped me find all those things. And yeah, I get called up like almost weekly with new loan officers that have a side gig. And so I've seen a lot of them come and go. So I'll kind of speak to that just so it's more constructive, rather than spend a bunch of time on what I did and why I did it in 2000. June of 2000 is when I made this full-time transition into tech entrepreneur. But, first of all, I think it's really important as entrepreneurs, and I do believe just every loan officer is an entrepreneur. Like and I use this term all the time in real estate. You're a real estate entrepreneur, you're a mortgage entrepreneur. Like, we wake up every day, most commission driven. How do we make more money? And we have a lot of unique ways in which you can approach this business and make a lot of money. There's no one way to win in this space. But, first of all, have a code, like, be clear on who you are, what you're passionate about. And I became more passionate about inventing a product and a platform with technology than I was at creatively approaching the mortgage business. I mean, that became like an obsession. And when you become obsessed with something, you get good at it over time. I do think all mortgage and real estate people should have a side gig called investing in real estate. Like, I just think like that, you want to build generational wealth, you want to kill it. If get a side gig in investing in your own product and being an investor. So I just think if you're not a good loan officer, like, hey, you've been doing this for a long time and it's soul sucking, and you're not achieving great results at it, like, hey, maybe, but I would tell everybody to, get clear on your, my son graduated from college this year, or not, excuse me, not this year, last week, the weekend, right now I just released Jack Savage into the wild. And, and my advice is like, get clear on your code. I mean, I had a lot of, I didn't give him one little piece of code, but have your code. And if you map what you're good at, what gives you energy, and what creates an incredible lifestyle for you and your family, you're going to win. And so, but in mortgage, yeah, have a side gig, invest in real estate. Now, becoming a technology entrepreneur, I see a lot of people extraordinarily underestimate what it requires. Like, they think building the front end piece of the technology is like a minimally viable product. And, and it's a lot. Like, building the back end of a technology so that you could productize it and sell it is, in many cases, more work than building the front end. And then I see people build technology and then they don't price it right. So they don't know how to sell it, or they don't know how to. So I don't caution people that if that's your genius zone and it fits your code and that's where you want to go, like, get after it, but don't underestimate it, at whatever it takes. And as far as mortgage business goes, like, what business can you make more money for less effort than mortgage and real estate? I don't know. Like, it's a home run gig.
Especially an industry where you don't have to have a degree, right? You just have to
I don't have a degree, yeah.
You have to be great with people. You have to have a passion for helping people and helping builders and agents. I want to go back for a second to sort of this niche that you had found in the mortgage business, with CPAs and financial advisors. Is that something you just sort of fell into, or was there part of your
Yeah.
creative genius that just thought, man, everyone is chasing this other group. I'm going to go after these people.
So a little bit of both. Um, I mean, I think, I don't know, Mel Samick was my first entrepreneur or my first mentor who brought me into the mortgage business. And so I did, like, I came to work, I worked at Smart and Final, I was putting myself through college. He hands me the yellow pages, opens it up to see CPAs, start here, and here's the script. Hi, my name's Dave Savage with Excalibur Mortgage. I specialize in helping CPAs and their clients with their real estate financing needs. Do you ever have clients that have needs for real estate financing? And when someone would say, yeah, Mel, dude, we got a hot one. And then,
Wow.
so I did not think to call CPAs and financial planners, but where I do give myself credit for is, and I don't know where I read it or got it, but there's riches in niches, which I have followed my entire career as an entrepreneur. Like, there's riches in niches, pick a niche, become incredible at it. And as a mortgage professional, I did things that no one had ever done in terms of building out the number of CPAs and financial planners, the way I managed CPAs and financial planners. There's an ebook called The Art of Referral. You could Google it, Art of Referral by Dave Savage, and it's pretty much my playbook for how I went about it. And so I found the little pot of gold with the help of my bro, Mel Samick, but the way I focused, drove it, create process, stayed committed to it for, a decade, that was very intentional and very purposeful.
Do you feel like, with whether it was the mortgage business for you or any venture that you've started, has there always been an obsession with it? And how did that translate into the amount of time that you spent? Because I feel like now we're in this sort of era where people want to kind of accomplish the result and do as little as possible to accomplish the result. And I think a lot of that's perpetuated by social media. And there's a lot of emphasis put on people with all the shiny, flashy things, and it makes it look simple and easy. But now you've referenced your obsession twice. One was with the mortgage business, and then creating Mortgage Coach. And what did that look like in the beginning stages when it comes to time invested?
So it's funny. It's funny that I said it twice, because and maybe you knew this already and you're leading me into it, but I interviewed, Jeremy Forcier. I see the core in the back. So you're either in the core or you were in the core. And he's a great personal friend of mine. And
fantastic guy.
Yeah, he's amazing. And anyways, I interviewed him in December this year. And I can't remember what the theme of the interview was, but within the conversation, he's like, I got 2 words this year. I'm like, what are your 2 words, bro? Obsessed and impact. And I was like, if you listen to the interview, it's like, bro, I am stealing that. Those are my 2 words this year.
Okay. I didn't hear that, by the way, so I wasn't.
So those are my 2 words this year.
Okay.
But about the next day, I was like, I'm obsessed with impact. I had written it down, and boom. And then I'm like, the next day I'm like, shit, I've been obsessed with impact my entire life. Like it's not my 2 words a year. Like, I never said those 2 words together. And I don't think I said the word obsessed as much as I do now, but I was always obsessed with impact. And then I started thinking more, and I'm like, shit, like, everybody I interview that I like that kills it is obsessed with impact. Like, and then I started thinking more, and I'm like, you know what? Because I have people that are friends that are, really wealthy and obsessed with impact. And I have friends that are really wealthy that are not obsessed with impact. I have friends that aren't that successful, but they're obsessed with impact. I dig people that are obsessed with impact. That's my crew. And so, yeah, I've always been one of the obsessed with impact, and I like hanging out with people that are obsessed with impact. So, yeah, that's who I am.
So when you started Mortgage Coach in the beginning, uh, from what I recall a few minutes ago, you said that you had kind of come up with this idea. You talked to your partner about building this out. Um, did you have any thinking in the beginning around like your ability or inability to write code, and or was
Well,
it
I don't
just
write code, never have
yeah?
written code. It's not, I'm ADD, dyslexic,
Mhm.
and that would be painful.
And was
Um,
this just a buddy of yours, or did you
yeah,
find
yeah.
this
Greg
individual?
Wexler and I had, when I went on my own and, started my first mortgage company,
Mhm.
it was called the Mortgage Store, and he was part of it. And part of the vision was I've always loved using technology. So
Mhm.
I was a very early adopter of CRM, and because it had spell check. And I'm like,
Mhm.
holy
Mhm.
shit, I could meet with
Yeah.
someone, not have any spelling errors. And I
Yeah.
had good typing skills because I took typing in high school because there was a
Yeah.
lot of pretty girls. I took
Yeah.
cooking and typing, and so I had
Yeah.
good typing skills. So I started using video because I've never misspelled a word with a video.
Mhm.
So I mean, I was always like, and remember, I'm competitive, so like anything that gives me an edge helps me be more efficient, more effective. And it just so happens I was born into an era where technology is just constantly superpowering human beings, you know?
Mhm.
So, so yeah, I'm not a coder. I just like winning. I like being efficient. And usually if technology is used properly, uh, it you win. You go
Mhm.
faster, you're more efficient, and every chance I get to be more competitive and to achieve better results, I'm like, let's go. I'll try
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. Was this a business where you were profitable pretty much right away from it, or did it take some time for you to really develop that critical mass where, I mean, it sounds like you presented it, you had 100 plus orders right away.
Yeah, we
Uh,
were we were always profitable with the exception of the correction of the meltdown.
oh,
So we were killing it, growing, and then the meltdown hit, and it was humbling. I mean, actually, I don't think we were not profitable, but it went from making really good money to not making good money and just being profitable. But I mean, I was always a bootstrap, self-funded entrepreneur with all of my technology companies.
so you've had this business now through multiple market adjustments. How have you stayed relevant with the technology, and how much of your time is spent thinking about expanding the technology versus staying focused on the main thing and just bringing it to more
Well,
people?
I sold Mortgage Coach to a private equity company in 21, in December of 21. I kept a large, well, 30% ish, a little like 35% of the equity in the company and rolled that into the new company. So now, we also bought the private equity company bought Mortgage Coach, Sales Boomerang. We merged the company. Now Mortgage Coach is a product of TrustEngine, and now we're trying to build a $1 billion fintech company. So I mean, but when I was a self-funded, bootstrapped entrepreneur, we were just smart, like we were, Greg and I, Greg Wexler was my co-founding partner. I was more um, optimistic and aggressive, and he was more conservative and practical. And we had a good partnership that kept us out of the gutter. I was pushing on the gas. He was like, let's make sure we don't go in the gutter, we don't crash. And so just, good partnership navigating, a couple storms.
Hey, for those that don't know what Sales Boomerang is, or maybe perhaps have not heard of Mortgage Coach, I think a lot of people have, but there will be other entrepreneurs on here that maybe haven't. Give the high level of what Mortgage Coach is versus Sales Boomerang.
Yeah. So Mortgage Coach, I always had the thesis as a salesperson that the best salesperson is the best teacher. And actually the name of Mortgage Coach, the company name, that we formed was called Wow Tools. So, and Mortgage Coach was a DBA of Wow Tools, but it was all about like, if you're watching this, if you ever got a loan, you probably got a fee worksheet. Here's your rate, here's your payment, here's your cash to close. It, was a PDF probably. It wasn't sexy. It didn't leverage mobile technology. And Mortgage Coach it's a consumer experience. And I always believe that when people get into debt, first of all, you should always have options. So if you're an entrepreneur watching this, I don't care whether you get a car loan, credit card, especially a mortgage, get options. You should always look at those options over time that matters to you, like 5 years, 10 years, 30 years. And then always look for strategies to either pay off your debt faster. Like, hey, I'm going to take 200, pay down my mortgage every month, or I'm going to take this loan versus this loan and invest 500 in a, S&P 100, whatever. But those are the 5 things, options, over time, strategies like debt reduction or asset accumulation. So that's Mortgage Coach. It's a presentation solution that now, 34% of the top 1% loan officers use in America, and we're really trying to change how people get into debt. And then Sales Boomerang, it was actually one of the 40 fastest growing fintech companies in America, not just mortgage. I mean, just flew out of nowhere. And what they did is data is dollars. Like they had, subscribed to all these different data sources, Black Knight, Experian, you name it, CoreLogic. And then they would go to lenders and say, you know what, you don't have to go build all these relationships with all these different credit vendors. We've built the integration with the CRM. You just sign up for us. And now all the different types of credit alerts that are, different database alerts so that you could, a client is running a credit report without a lender. You could call them. It helps lenders retain their database. So data and Mortgage Coach. Now, today, TrustEngine, we're being a lot more predictive with data. We're looking at life events, everything that we can ethically see from data. We're predicting who's most likely to buy, sell, or refinance real estate. And then we're putting the loan officer in front of that consumer with a digital, we call it a Mortgage Coach total cost analysis, that helps the consumer make a smarter decision so that they can build wealth with real estate faster and become financially free faster. So we're really optimizing for the consumer, and then we're optimizing client for life for the loan officer and the lender. I don't know.
For those of you listening to this that maybe have not heard of Mortgage Coach, I will tell you it's a phenomenal tool. It has significantly increased our conversion. We oftentimes will hear from the client where they'll tell us, man, it was because of your presentation. It was so dialed in that we chose to work with you over another company. And it just elevates your game, because I think a lot of people in our industry are still working with traditional spreadsheets, or they're just telling the clients over the phone what the information is. And I think what's nice about this is, I think people no longer really want to be sold. They want to feel like they have the ability to make an educated decision. So they want the information, but they want to be the ones to make the decision. Well, you have the ability to help them do that, but it's still you providing them with the information. So it's been a fantastic tool. And if you're not using it, I would highly recommend you look into the technology and use it to help your business grow. I want to talk about, because you've interviewed the best of the best out there in the mortgage space, like if you were to think of the top, I'll just say top 10 that you've interviewed, maybe not necessarily the best interviewee, but best in terms of their results. And you were to think of those 10 people, and you guys were all sitting in a locker room, is there a common thread? Like what is the common thread that all these individuals have that makes you feel like this is one of the reasons why they're the best of the best? Like,
Well,
what makes them unique and different?
there's only two things that I could think of that all 10 of them would check the box. And I'm not going to list them in order because I think they both kind of go hand in hand with, the most elite success. And my guess is this would be at any profession, sales profession. But they were all obsessed with impact. I mean, they really truly get energy from helping people and doing it in the highest impactful way possible. Like, all 10 of them would check that box. And then the other thing is all 10 of them have a way in which they give impact that they do consistently. And the word is consistently, like they, now in my case, they all 10 use Mortgage Coach because I only interview people that use Mortgage Coach. But there are some absolute badass loan officers that give incredible value to the consumer that don't use Mortgage Coach, but I will guarantee you they're obsessed with impact and they have a great process. Maybe we can make it better. Well, no, we can make it better, but they do it consistently. And those are the only two things that I've been able to distinguish that are just 100%.
Do you believe those same individuals have this way about them where they demand excellence with themselves and with their team, right?
Standards,
Constantly pushing for a higher standard or for perfection.
Yeah. But I will tell you, I mean, I've interviewed some pretty elite people, the different levels of standards, and it'll kind of bite them in the butt. There's no doubt that when you that would be like maybe a third or fourth but there's such a different degree, like when it comes to obsessed with impact, it's just obvious. When it comes to like, I've got a process and it's consistent, they're all like, whatever the level is, like in, level 10. When it comes to standards, I see people that have level 10 standards and you could tell that's why they're successful, but I've seen some pretty incredibly successful people. They all are in the level 8, but I've seen a different degree of that among interviews. But I don't want to diminish that. Like at the end of the day, like, if I'm talking to my kids, you get what you tolerate in life. And if you don't think big enough and if you don't have high enough standards, that's definitely the difference between high performers and people that are struggling. But then we get into a lot of things, work ethic, which to me is another thing. My guess is all 10 of those 10 people outwork, 90+% of America. They're incredibly hard workers. They have incredibly high standards. They do a incredibly good job of prioritizing their time. What we all got the same hours of the day, and some people get more out of that day than others. You just start to get into a lot of different ways in which people win and what their genius zone is.
I feel a lot of those individuals, they have found a way to tap into a flow state where they almost compress time, right? They're able to accomplish a lot more in a shorter period of time. With some of the challenges with interest rate and other ancillary concerns within the market, like, what do you think the common mindset is of those same 10 individuals? Like, how are they choosing to perceive the issue or the challenge or the problem?
Yeah. I mean, they're all. I don't know if they're all optimists. I haven't like paid attention to that, but all people that adapt to change are like, how do I turn problems and challenges into opportunities? So you're probably right. I mean, that probably does exist in all 10 of the most high performing, high result people that I've ever interviewed. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, they adopt, they change, they evolve. And, I think that's just a force of nature that the folks that adapt to new challenges the best win. So there you go. I'll add a third.
Yeah,
That's
good.
I hadn't thought of that, but I think you're right. Like I think all 10 of those people would have done a great job of adapting to change, and they've done it their entire careers. Although I do also interview people that are incredibly elite and successful, and there's so many things they're not changing that they should be changing. So I mean, like there's so much success. And I can almost say, I mean, myself included, there's so many things that if we just took a habit that's really good, but there's 3 degrees of better, and we were just always optimizing, we'd all be more successful.
Sure.
And everybody, the top loan officers in America, they have things that can be optimized, a lot of them.
What do you, how do you feel energy plays a role in the success of an individual? And, you talked a lot about process as well. Is there anything you do with your businesses and kind of where you're looking to take things to optimize energy, and how has that played a role with your success?
Well, for personally, I mean, energy is, one of my absolute most valuable assets. I'll bring up Jeremy again because I'll never forget many years ago. I don't remember what I asked him, but like, what's your most valuable? And I was trying to get him to say mortgage coach. I think I don't remember exactly what I asked him, but it was kind of a lead into like mortgage coach. And he's like,
and he didn't take the bait.
Yeah, well, I just had to tell you, he was like my energy, and by the way, he was right. And I was like, that is that is your most valuable asset. I mean, it introduces you, it's the first impression that you make. Now with that said, I've seen people that don't have my kind of energy, Jeremy's kind of energy, that completely slay it. So I don't think that's a common denominator. But personally, my energy is everything, and a major part of what I consider to be this my most important success traits. And right now I'm going to be 60 next month, and so I've always had a really productive and badass elite morning ritual. So I've always done smart things. I've always woken up usually with a 4 on it. I 4 something. Late for me is like 5:15. But I've been a lot more focused on winning by 7. I've always had a theme, win by noon, which anyone watching this, go to winbynoon.com. It's an incredible platform for mortgage and real estate professionals, but I've always won by noon. But right now I'm like, how am I going to win by 7? What am I going to do to win by 7? And I have added some protocols.
Dude, that's freaking awesome. Like that is awesome. Like that to me is gold, and I think that, anyway, continue. I want to hear more about this part of your morning routine. Was that something that you've always done, or was it like you slowly worked your way to the 4 a.m.?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, today I'm like, cold plunging every day. I'm sauna every day. I didn't do that last year. So I've added those protocols this year. But I mean, every day I've been home under my own roof. I've cold plunged before 7 a.m. and 20 minutes of sauna every day. And it's been insanely awesome.
What does the cold plunge do for you? Because everybody has a little bit of a different interpretation as to like the thing that they do it for. But everybody said it's really freaking hard every single time.
Well, no, it's not for me. Well, first of all, everything I've read on the science of cold plunging is anything under 59.
Okay.
You're getting the scientific benefits, and I'm setting it for 55. So I'm, and I've got friends that, I'm doing 45 and I'm doing 38. And I've experimented with those things, and I'm like, no, it freaking hurts. I would dread it every day if it was.
How much time? in the cold plunge?
The most I've done is 10 minutes. I do 5 minutes a lot, but 3 minutes is my time. Like
Okay.
55
At least 3
degrees,
minutes.
3 minutes. And one, I mean, it's not easy. So, I mean, one, I'm
Sure.
proud of myself. Like, you're a badass. Like, the more we're proud of ourselves, we're like, I'm kicking ass, the better. So I get a little self pump there. I definitely feel like like you reboot a computer. I feel like it reboots me. And then when I get out of that, so I'm gonna be 60 this year, and got like I can feel my shoulder crack, like my knees aren't what they used to be. But dude, for like 2 hours after I get out of the thing, I feel like I'm 20 years old. Like, I mean,
That's awesome.
like I just feel incredible. And so yeah, it's awesome. So that's a new thing. But I've always got up early. I've always had a theme called peaceful and positive. So
Right.
like not looking at the news. I'm, you know, journaling. I'm, looking at things that are positive and peaceful. I do check emails. I mean, I know a lot of people are like, oh, don't check your emails or your texts, but I do. I like to knock that stuff out and I don't get sucked into it, but I hit that stuff. I would say for last year, I've always walked a lot, but now I get a solid, at least a mile and a half to 2.5 mile brisk, bitch and walk in the morning, so those are a couple of the protocols I have. I've got a few others.
That's great. What's are you spending any time on vision? On thinking about what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's a vision board or just closing your eyes and almost a version of meditation where you're envisioning what you want your future to look like.
Yeah. By 7, I always have looked at my schedule for the day and played it out. I mean, I book in the day, in the day what I got going tomorrow, and if I have some big Shark Tank high stakes meetings, I before I go to bed, like just play a little game film in my head on that, and then I always, in the morning, winning by 7 is, and I usually write down what's the big win of the day, so I've got this, and it's, like
Cool.
every day, a couple days I had 2 things, but like what is that number one thing that I'm going to crush that day that has the most impact and that I need to, perform at my best. So try to know what that win the day impact meeting is.
Are you playing that in your head the day of or the night before?
I mean, if it's a presentation where I'm doing a one-to-many, I'm at a conference or something. I mean, the last thing I do before I go to bed is go through my slides, go through my notes, then boom, wake up, look at it once, and then that's pretty much it. Then I'm good to go. I mean, before I spoke a lot, I put more time into it than that.
You're prepared now, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's, by the way, that's another personal theme is have fun, play loose. Like train hard, work hard, and then have fun, play loose. Whatever happens once I step onto the field, So if I'm going into a big meeting, like, hey, I prepared, I researched this dude. Now I'm just going to go in and have fun, play loose with whoever I'm trying to, win, trying to drive.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to analyze and overthink. And
then go in tight, or and if I don't follow the script or I forget what I was going to do, like, hey, I prepared, now just go have fun, play loose.
I know as an entrepreneur, sometimes it's difficult to take time away from the business. There's always something you feel is super important. It's critical. If I'm not there, I'm not going to be able to have the same impact as if I were there. But we also know that taking some time by ourselves and to get away from the business can be helpful as well. What's your approach with taking time away?
It sucks. It's hard for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not. I haven't. I mean, do I take vacations with my family, yes. And again, my wife's not here, so, but I'll pretend she was. No, I am a workaholic. I like my work. I like being in it. Can I take a day off here and there? Yeah. Do I coach my kids' sports and cook dinners and do a lot of things, but I like to be writing, planning, working. Like my work is play. Like I don't like. There's not a lot that I do on a day-to-day basis that I completely want to separate from. Now I do think I owe it to my wife to do a little better at that. Like maybe when I'm 65.
Yeah.
But right now I like to work hard, play hard, but I don't disconnect for weeks at a time. Like that's just not who I am.
That's not who you are. And I think that I think a lot of men operate off of mission and purpose, right? And when we feel
Yeah.
like we're not on mission, we're not on purpose, there's just an unsettling.
It's just not as fun.
Yeah.
Like I want to, I mean, if I'm having fun and if I do get burned, like there'll be some weekends where, yeah, I don't open my computer and I didn't work on something that I had planned on working over the weekend. I do that all the time where, I get the recovery I need. And if I needed recovery, I would get my recovery, but I don't remember I'm ADD. So it's like, I'm always going.
So speaking of ADD and speaking of being an entrepreneur now for 3 decades, surely there have been times in that journey where it hasn't always been fantastic. There have been moments of struggle, of challenge, of God, am I going to make it? We try to live in faith, but oftentimes fear can get the best of us, and we're wondering what's going to happen. And I'm wondering if you can think back to one of those times in your career and just sort of speak to that and speak how you got through that. Like any moment in time where you were really struggling with the business or struggling with your results, what are some things you did to get through to the other side while you were going through that struggle?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I think of, personal development things that I've been through that really changed the way I think in a way that served me my whole life. I early on in my 20s, I read Tony Robbins' book Unlimited Power. I went and did the fire walk. This is when Tony still did them. I did his personal power program, and I changed some bad habits. I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole therapy session of things that I needed to change in order to be a better me, but I mean, I really learned that I can control the way I think, and I can change the way I think. So I really I've experienced that in my life. I've done that in my life. And so, and then I don't know what age I developed this, belief about a life well lived. It's always getting better, never bitter, better, never bitter. Like that is the North Star for my life, is to never get bitter, always get better. And so, I think that foundation that I own my thoughts, and I also got some tools from Tony Robbins, neurolinguistics, and understand how to use those tools, that I've been able to trick myself into bitter thoughts or regret or being pissed at someone, and go, you know what? I can fix that shit. I can rewire my mind. And then I do think my mornings, like to, execute on my mornings, know that whatever I'm thinking, I can fix it. And if I ever, I'm feeling the seeds of bitterness, I'm going to find the seed to betterness. And so I just feel like that's always been a compass to me, get better, not bitter, get better, not bitter.
Dude, I love that. And couple other questions here before we wrap up, but one of them is, so there's two trains of thought. One is, hey, let's say you wake up and you wake up and you're, for whatever reason, you're negative or you're angry or you're, um, you're very low on the spectrum of, consciousness, right? And you know that you have the ability to fix that and to change it. But one way of thinking is, regardless of how you feel, just continue to do the next best thing, and eventually you will feel different. The other way of looking at it is, man, I've got a lot of meetings that I need to be on my A game. I need to be super impactful. Um, and does it make sense to make those calls or to do those things if I'm not feeling at my best, because maybe my energy won't translate and have the greatest amount of impact? So what path do you take?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I've never been so sick that I've missed a day of work in my life. So have I ever been sick? Yes. But I had COVID. I remember the first time I got COVID, and that was like, I did not work a full day. And in between meetings, I was, laying on the ground. But I believe in playing hurt, and I believe in that, when the tough gets going, or when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Like a sense of, who I am is always just programs me through that. So like, yeah, and then, when I was responsible for generating leads and prospecting, I got so addicted to winning by noon, getting my calls in, that literally, if I didn't get those calls in, my prospecting, whatever that goal was, like I had anxiety, like it would have been harder not to win by noon and get my calls in than to. And again, and I was playing to win a game. So I do always believe in having a mission, have a 3 to 4 year mission. And, when I was at my best as a mortgage professional, I didn't really care if I was number one in the country. I mean, I was like, I wanted to be on the list. There was 100, I wanted to be on the list of the best. I had a check number that I wanted to make. I wanted to be on the list, and I built habits to do that. And then I just think that, like, when you're hurting, like, that's the difference between, me being who I want to be. And then, like I said, I've programmed myself so that, like, it's not an option.
I feel like it's a standard of elite people.
Yeah, it's a standard.
Yeah, because nobody, like, we all remember the person that we've worked with where they're constantly talking about how sick they are, right? But
Not
we
me.
respect the person that, where we know that they're not playing at 100%, yet they do it anyway. And there's a certain level of respect for that person. All right, where do you think the mortgage industry is headed? What do you think, if anything, is changing? And if you believe something is changing and there will be sort of this new way of doing things, what does that look like that's different from today?
Hmm. Well, first of all, everything that can be automated will be automated. Uh, so keep that in mind. There will be a day where, if you're talking to someone on phone, you will not be able to distinguish whether you're talking to a human or machine. Like, it'll be that good. Um, but the human experience, and the human experience is more than just being able to, like, sound like a human. I mean, the human experience is, I live in wherever you live. It's local, it's geo. We're human beings. We want to do business with human beings. So I just don't see in my lifetime that human beings are eliminated from the mortgage and real estate space. But I do think that human beings that leverage those technologies will completely take market share from those that don't adopt, the latest and greatest habits. So I think it's a great time in mortgage. Like, when you look at the demographics in America, and you look at the data, the difference between owning and renting in America is people that rent have an average net worth of $10,000. People that own, it's actually north of 400,000 in net worth. Like the wealth gap in America is who owns and who rents. So, if you're in mortgage and if you're in real estate, you are on the front line of helping people get into the haves and the have-nots. And I think so real estate's going to do really well over the next decade. I don't know what it looks like 20 or 30 years from now, but I just can't imagine. Will it have its ups and downs? Sure. Will it have locality where some markets outperform others? Absolutely. But at the macro level, like housing is awesome. And then I think for the most elite mortgage professionals that are obsessed with impact, they really care about helping people. They're using technology to do it. They're gonna kill it. One mission I'm on, in addition to TrustEngine and Mortgage Coach and people that use our technology are going to be in the haves, is the one thing that I'm really passionate around. Well, I'm completely obsessed with that, but I also want to bring financial literacy to high school and college age kids. So I founded a nonprofit called First Home IQ, and that's the thing where I hope we can in America. Like if you're old enough, if you're 16, you should be old enough to know how to save money and how compound interest works, like investing. If you're 18, all the credit card vendors are going to start coming after you. You should be old enough to know how credit score works and how credit works and how to make decisions around debt. And if you're 21, you should know how all that works, and you should know how like real estate investing is a good gig. And so I'm really, hoping that we could do a better job of educating the next generation around, money matters, buy your first home as young and fast as you can. And I think never been a better time to get in this industry. And I would just, anybody who's like, oh, should I go get in another industry? Like, I don't know. I don't think I'll see it in my lifetime where being a loan officer, being a realtor, if you're elite, if you're obsessed with impact, if you get processes that you execute consistently, that you can't make more money than doctors, attorneys, and then if you invest it, like if you kick ass as an operator in the business and then you invest it wisely, like what a great industry, man. Like what's better than this?
Yeah, dude, 100%. And Dave, thank you so much, man, for taking the time out. This was all gold. I appreciate you walking us through new ventures, sort of your mindset with daily routine, how you got to where you are today, and just really appreciate you, man. And the viewers should know that I was fortunate enough to have Dave respond and be willing to jump on this podcast. And to me, it's a great honor, and I really appreciate it. And I hope we can stay in touch.
Of course.
Cool. Thanks, bro.
Boom.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, where can people find you?
On all social media. I mean, I'm pretty intentional around LinkedIn. So I try to post every weekday,
Okay.
and then our YouTube channel is, I try to make it the most valuable place for loan officers that want to be, kill it. But I'm, and then we have a Facebook group, TrustEngine Facebook group. But, I would say YouTube and LinkedIn, I'm most, thoughtful about what I do there.
Cool. You guys heard it. Go follow Dave Savage. My man, thank you so much for your time. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. Take care, brother.
Every time that I see a limit, I push right past it. Don't care if you got here first, the one to win is the last one standing. Say my life is like luck, nah, I had to plan it. The way I work is out of this earth. I can feel the momentum. Need it all, no fractions, dream it, then I